Hello, welcome to my YouTube channel. I don't have one. Welcome back to another YouTube video. This is my first YouTube video ever, where we will be talking about psychedelics. Now, to give you some background on why we're talking about psychedelics today, I'll share with you my personal experience. So, I have never done psychedelics, looked at psychedelics, smelled psychedelics. I watched a documentary about psychedelics and the afterlife, and it showed all of these people's extremely transformative experiences and how it changed their life for the better, and I found it so fascinating, and I couldn't believe that something like this was illegal and that for some reason it's discouraged, when clearly it has nothing but positive benefits. So that inspired me to understand what's going on with that. So watching this change sparked a curiosity within me to understand psychedelics and why this happened. Can everyone experience this? Is it just a one-time thing? Is this an overall experience? What does this mean for society, and what does this mean for the future of medicine? Now, mental health is a brain wiring situation. It is not a problem that you just need to grit your teeth and get over. It is a mental health issues for a reason, and that is because they are so hard to overcome. There's a very big mental health crisis right now in America and also all over the world. The things that create this issue are old habits, negative mindsets, traumatic experiences. These things keep you stuck in old ways of thinking that your brain has carved into, that you just can't get out of because you think that there's no other way because of how long you've been stuck in those paths. And so without help, you can't overcome it on your own. And so I think those are major contributors to the mental health crisis right now. Through watching has brought me hope that this can be anyone's solution. So today I'm going to be explaining to you why psychedelics are not only viable, but an extraordinary solution for the mental health crisis that we're dealing with right now. So my first claim is psychedelics should be categorized as a medicine because the results prove just as effective as any other, and they offer effects that no pill for medication can. In an article from Yale News, I found this quote from co-senior author Nico Uf Dosenbach, who has a PhD in neurology. He says, "There's a massive effect initially, and when it's gone, a pinpoint effect remains. That's exactly what you'd want to see for a potential medicine. You wouldn't want people's brain networks to be obliterated for days, but you also wouldn't want everything to snap back to the way it was immediately. You want an effect that lasts long enough to make a difference." To me, this really stuck out because you have this professor of neurology with a PhD in neurology telling us that the results that we've seen from psychedelics is the exact same results you'd see in, or you'd want to see in any other medication that would be FDA approved. So I found this very interesting, considering the stigma around psychedelics and how his comparison shows the same results as any other medication as far as effectiveness and what you would be looking for in an ideal medication. My second point for my claim is it's unlike any other medication on the market for mental health. It can offer things that no other medication can. And so here, a quote from Johns Hopkins At the Johns Hopkins Center for Psychedelic and Consciousness Research, CPCR, participants in clinical trials for psilocybin, the active ingredient in magic mushrooms, says, in such a controlled lab setting, center researchers have found psilocybin produces experiences resulting in substantial and sustained personal meaning. It can help treat depression and/or anxiety, has therapeutic effects in people who suffer from substance use disorder, and can help ease existential distress caused by life-threatening diseases. The first thing I want to point out from this collection is when they say, center researchers have found psilocybin produces experiences resulting in substantial and sustained personal meaning. Now, if you go take a regular medication, pharmaceutically approved, that your doctor gave to you, very few, if none at all, will you find give you a substantial and sustained personal meaning. What medication ever will make you feel like life is worth living again? I don't think very many. And if they do, it only lasts while you're on the medication. So the fact that this happened off of a clinical trial, just one use, says a lot about the ability of psilocybin within psychedelics and how powerful it truly can be. The second thing I'd like to point out is it can help treat depression and/or anxiety, has therapeutic effects in people who suffer from substance use disorder, and can help ease existential distress caused by life-threatening diseases. Psychedelics can help treat 4 of the biggest problems in the mental health crisis: depression, anxiety, substance use disorder, and existential distress. These are 4 of the biggest issues when it comes to mental health, because they feel so hard to beat and because they feel impossible. I feel like that really shows us right there how much potential is within psilocybin use. To get a better understanding of how psychedelics work, I'll show you guys a video right now.
Psychedelics are serotonin, a big dose, a big glug of serotonin all at once. What serotonin does is it provides you with this sense of complacency, of eudaimonia, of contentment. Serotonin is necessary to rewire areas of the brain. You can actually see it on MRI.
Can I just confirm that, just on one point? You're not saying that psychedelics create serotonin. You're saying that they are the same...
They're a serotonin mimicker.
Okay, yeah.
They mimic serotonin.
Yep.
Think of it this way. You live on a mountain, okay, with snow, and you have to every week go down to the general store at the base of the mountain, and you ski down there, and you ski down there, and you ski down there, and the snow falls, and you ski down there, and soon what you've done is you've created ridges in the snow for you to get down the hill, and they freeze, and soon the only way to get down the hill through the ridges that you've created, you are now basically in a rut. You have trapped into that path. There's no other way out your house other than those ridges that have frozen in place. That's what's happening in your brain. You can't unthink your way out of it because that's the only way you know. Psychedelics are like a huge, enormous blizzard filling in the ruts, filling in the ridges. So you end up with a pristine a snowbank for you to be able to basically ski any which way you want. It's your way out of your rut. Now, can this be done without psychedelics? Absolutely, but it's hard.
For my second claim, psychedelics can go further and do more one-on-one than a therapist or a psychiatrist. The reason why this is, like we just saw in the video, is because it involves your brain getting a reset, changing your own mindset within yourself instead of having somebody else trying to tell you how you need to change your mind and the things that you need to do. Instead of it starting outside in, it's starting inside out. Once you go through this experience, that's a personal experience that nobody else had but yourself, and you can take that within you and create those positive habits from the inside out, which is much easier than trying to adapt something else that somebody is trying to put onto you. Here I have a quote from NYU Langone Health, and it explains a little better as to why therapy and medications that are not psychedelics can't work as well as psychedelics. It says, while therapy, antidepressants, and antipsychotics may help patients, these methods often fall short. Studies have suggested that antidepressants do not work well for people who have had multiple traumas over the course of years or chronic PTSD. A new study found that the antipsychotic risperidone worked no better than a placebo in alleviating typical PTSD symptoms in patients who had the disorder long-term or who continued to experience symptoms after being treated with antidepressants. This just goes to show you that even with therapy and with medication, it still can't do the same thing that psychedelics can do, because these solutions are masking the problem. When you take psychedelics, like I said before, it penetrates your person and it changes the way you view the world. It creates that layer of snow so that you get to start fresh. Whenever you're trying to take medications and you're trying to talk to a therapist, they are trying to get you to make your own snowstorm, and that's incredibly difficult, and most people cannot end up with a new way to get down to the store, and that's just a harsh reality. We see a little bit more proof of this from a Harvard article. From Harvard Health, a quote saying, according to Dr. Gerald Rosenbaum, the director of the newly created Center for the Neuroscience of Psychedelics at Massachusetts General Hospital and former psychiatrist-in-chief at MGH, he says, psychedelic drugs themselves can put patients into a transient state where they can better process memories, feelings, and past trauma, and can reemerge with a new perspective on them that is freeing and healing. This can also be called psychedelic-assisted therapy. That's what I want to point out here. Psychedelic-assisted therapy, right? What does that mean? That means we used psychedelics as therapy. And there's a reason why psychedelics are being used as therapy, and that's because they have stronger capabilities than a therapist can. Not saying therapists can't do their job, because they most definitely can, but in these very particular situations where trauma is deeply seated and those ski ridges are iced over, we need more than just a therapist, and we need more than just a mask of medication to fix these problems. We need a reset, and that's what psychedelics are. Psychedelics are a reset. They're something that is a necessity in these situations, and by approving this medication, that would even further give people an opportunity to live a life that they hope for and that they deserve after such traumatic experiences. To see a real life example of how this worked for somebody, I'm going to insert a video right here.
So the prescription drugs are gone. I have new healthy habits. I'm working out every day, not just working out, but spiritually doing yoga and taking care of my body, eating healthy. I quit drinking entirely. I was on nicotine and I quit smoking, and I was vaping, but still, I quit. And that's something that's really challenging for a lot of people, but it was because I had the opportunity with the medicine, and it was a reset to reprogram my brain and start over basically from scratch. And so I knew that going into the ceremony, and I took advantage of it, and in 1 year completely refocused my entire life to wellness and health and taking care of myself, and really going in and helping process trauma and everything else that comes along with life.
My claim is, addictions and mental health can affect the whole family by using psychedelics. It helps ease that stress. I'm a strong believer, after my personal experience, that psychedelics can affect friends and family for the better by changing those mindsets A quote from NYU Langone Health. Stephen Ross, MD, a psychiatrist at NYU Langone, conducted a study on terminally ill cancer patients and found that one-time treatment with psilocybin very quickly brought relief from distress that had lasted more than 6 months in 80% of study patients. Patients noted that after being treated with psilocybin, they felt their quality of life improve. They noted that they wanted to engage more with external activities and had more energy, experienced improved relationships with their family members, and performed better at work. These are super important takeaways for this point because it just shows you that because of that reset and because of that recreation and that fresh snow, it allows you to view the world through a positive mindset, because now that those tracks are covered, you get to create brand new ones. You get to create positive ones that bring you joy, not ones that drag you down and make life harder. Why would someone choose a life that's harder when they could have one that's easier, right? So after that fresh snow, that's what this creates. And it gives you the opportunity to connect with your family members better than you could before, because now you see yourself capable of interacting with them in a more connected, more positive way, which would take stress off of the family and creates a more connected environment. Another quote from Yale News says, "The team found that people who recently took psychedelics such as LSD and psilocybin, more commonly known as magic mushrooms, were more likely to report having transformative experiences, so profound that they came out of the experience radically changed, including changes to their moral values." I want to stop right there and say, if their moral values are changing because of transformative experiences, that is an internal reset. Like I will say again and again, that's an internal reset from here, creating more positive experiences and a better outlook moving forward. If you are reset more positively, you are going to naturally have better connection with family, friends, and a more positive outlook on life, which will create a balance where they are speaking positively into you and you into them, and that's creating that more balance, that better family-friend connection. To finish, transformative experiences in turn were associated with feelings of social connectedness and positive mood. Very important for feeling connected. People who abstained from substance use, drank alcohol, or took other drugs such as cocaine or opioids did not report transformative experiences, increased connectedness with others, or positive mood to the same degree. That's also important because it shows that psychedelics isn't comparable to alcohol or opioids or over-the-counter drugs. Psychedelics is its own category that can't be compared to anything, and it should not be set in the same category as alcohol or opioids, because unlike those two, the positive impact and outcome in the long run creates a much larger effect than possibly a negative in the moment or any negative from alcohol or opioids. The point of psychedelics is to create that positive experience. That's what it does. That's the entire makeup of it. It creates that positive experience. And alcohol and opioids are just not comparable to that. And I don't see how someone could become addicted to psychedelics in the same way that they can become addicted to alcohol or opioids, because it just doesn't live in that same process. It doesn't live in that same chemical makeup. I'll give an example of that right here.
I would say it's a complete paradigm shift. At 20, I had sexual trauma. I've been abused. I had so many things that were going wrong with me. Full on anxiety to the point of where I would pass out and be rushed to the hospital. And yet that I lived in this world of anxious anxiety. And I believe that my paradigms have changed so much over the last 20 years that if I were to go back and speak to them, to that younger version of myself, and the beliefs that I have about the world and love and safety and unity consciousness and how we are all one, and the beauty of nature and all these things that come from feeling, when you feel that connection and when you feel that inside of you, that is something that you can never take away. So a lot of people get that through a psychedelic therapy journey for the first time ever in their life. And you can't unremember that kind of connection. And that will change the paradigm of who you are forever.
We can see right there firsthand experience of how this positively affected her life and how it made her feel optimistic towards her future. And it made her feel connected, like she said. Change is possible. Mental freedom is possible if we make the right choices. And I think as a society and as a community, it's our responsibility to take charge for what our choices are. What can those choices be? And for me, that choice is psychedelics. Psychedelics can change the future of medicine, and they can make the world a better place by making your brain more positive. Thank you so much for watching and listening to me talk about the political and economic state of the world right now. Thank you. Thank you very much for watching.
And I go around sometimes and I hang out with other people that are my age, and they're just kind of just selfie. I'm just like, dude, like, oh my God, like, can we talk about like the political and economic state of the world right now?